Imagine this. You're standing at your husband's funeral. 40 years of marriage, sacrifices, raising a son, keeping the home perfect. You think today your only child will stand at the podium and finally say the words you've waited your whole life to hear, my mom, the woman who was always there for us. But what comes out of his mouth is a knife. My son Daniel, voice trembling, says, I want to give a special thank you to someone who stood by my father through the hardest times of his life, Miss Linda Mallister. She was the one who was truly family to us. The entire chapel falls silent. Every head turns to the front row. There she is, perfect emerald green wool coat, flawless makeup, delicate tears glistening in her eyes. She stands, nods gracefully, and gives the smallest, most triumphant smile. And me, the real wife, the real mother, I sit off to the side, invisible, heart shattering in slow motion. That was the moment my world ended, and the moment my new life began. My name is Maggie. I was married to Robert for 40 years. He died in a sudden car crash, heavy rain downtown, brakes failed on a sharp curve, the car slammed into the side of a supermarket. He was gone instantly. The doctor said he didn't suffer. I wasn't so sure he deserved that kind of mercy. I wore his favorite charcoal gray wool coat to the service. I stood at the chapel entrance, greeting guests while the wind bit my fingers numb. I smiled through chattering teeth. Robert always cared so much about appearances. Even in death, I kept up the facade for him. Daniel walked to the podium, our only child, 33 years old, back-end engineer at a big tech firm, sharp dark suit, solemn face, steady voice until it wasn't. He read a beautiful tribute to his father. Then he paused. His eyes glistened. There's someone I want to thank specially, he said, voice cracking just a little. I clutched my purse so hard my knuckles turned white. I thought, this is it. After 40 years of quiet love, of being the invisible backbone, he's finally going to say it. My mother. But the words that came next sliced me open. Someone who supported my dad through the toughest time of his life. Miss Linda Mallister. A murmur rippled through the room. From the front row she rose. Linda Mallister, deep green coat, black heels, hair perfectly styled, makeup that looked like it had been applied by an artist. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue, nodded politely, and sat back down, while everyone stared. I felt the floor disappear beneath me. Linda Mallister, Robert's former administrative assistant, later promoted to consulting partner, briefly on the board. Whenever I asked about her, he brushed it off. She's competent, don't be paranoid. I remembered the company Christmas party years ago. She handed me a glass of wine, smiled sweetly, moved with the confidence of someone who belonged. I thought she was just another ambitious employee. How ironic. Someone behind me whispered, she's sitting so close, like she's family, and my son had just called her exactly that. That night I sat alone in the dark living room. When I took off Robert's coat, the satin lining was wrinkled, like the last shred of dignity in our marriage had been crushed. His chair at the dining table still sat empty. I never moved it. For decades he sat there, hand on the armrest, waiting for me to bring his soup. Now the armrest was cold. I didn't sleep. I pulled out old photo albums. Us when we were young, light in his eyes, easy smile on my face. I found my old employee ID from when I was a financial consultant at his firm. Short hair, confident, always second from the right in boardroom photos. Then he told me, quit. I'll take care of everything. And foolishly, I believed him. The next morning, the lawyer's office smelled like old wood and ink. A faded copy of the Constitution hung crooked on the wall. Sunlight sliced through the blinds in narrow stripes. The lawyer spoke slowly, every word heavy. Pursuant to the will signed by Mr. Robert 3 years ago, the majority of assets, including the primary residence in Somerville, the Nantucket vacation home, and the bulk of personal accounts, Go to Miss Linda Mallister. Not a single dime for me. I looked at Daniel. He sat ramrod straight, no surprise, no emotion, like he'd known all along. I stood, walked to him, voice shaking. You knew, didn't you? He met my eyes calmly. Dad had his reasons. His reasons? I whispered. What did 40 years mean to him? Silence. Then he worked hard his whole life. Linda was there for him. She understood him. You didn't. In that moment I realized I wasn't just losing my husband. I was losing my son. Back home I opened Robert's closet. Rows of pressed shirts, ties, wool vests, all carrying that familiar scent of polished success. But every thread felt woven with lies. In the basement I found a cardboard box of old photos. Robert and Linda at company events, his hand gently on her arm, smiling wider than he ever smiled with me. In one picture, Daniel, maybe 18, stood between them, awkward but not uncomfortable. On the back, in pen, our little family will be official one day. Something broke inside me, not my heart, something deeper, trust. It would never be whole again. I lit a single candle that night, played slow jazz. For the first time in that house without Robert, I wondered, maybe I'd spent my whole life dancing to his rhythm. No more. Linda wasn't an accident. She had planned everything. Her Facebook profile was public. Beach photos, soft smile, bio, consultant, lover of classical music and community service, grateful for life's tender company. Albums full of proof. Robert in her living room wearing the jacket I bought him. Robert helping her plant flowers. Robert toasting her at Christmas. Daniel right there, arm around Linda's shoulder while she laughed. Your dad should be proud of you. She hadn't just stolen my husband. She'd been building a new family and erasing me. I called Ruth, my old colleague from the firm. Sharp, semi-retired, still doing freelance financial work. Maggie, I heard about Robert. I'm so sorry. I need your help, I said. I think he used company funds for years to buy properties for her. There may be transfers we can trace. Ruth was quiet. You're not just fixing a broken marriage, you're looking at fraud. I want the truth. I've been in the dark too long. We met at her house 2 days later. She opened her laptop, found several outside consulting support payments to a shell company. No real office. $50,000 the same month you were recovering from surgery. My stomach twisted. I went to the library, pulled public property records. A single-family villa in her name. Purchased 5 years ago, right when Robert oversaw the company's employee housing benefits project. I remember joking, "Next trip, take me too." He said, "You wouldn't like it there." Now I knew why. I confronted Daniel at our old cafe, the one where he used to eat caramel dessert as a boy. He arrived in a trench coat, phone face down on the table like always. "Why did you send Linda a legal notice?" he asked bluntly. "Do you think I shouldn't have?" He shrugged. "She didn't hurt you. Dad gave her the money. It was his decision. Suing her just makes everyone uncomfortable." Uncomfortable? My voice cracked. "Your father lied to me for decades. I gave up my career, sold my mother's emerald ring for your college. Do you know what that ring meant to me?" He exhaled, irritated. "You always bring it up like I owe you something." That hit harder than any slap. Dad told me the happiest years of his life were with Linda. She understood him, respected him. You criticized him, questioned him. I questioned him because he stopped respecting me, I said through gritted teeth. He shook his head. "You're too traditional, Mom. You think sacrifice is a virtue." Dad didn't need that kind of love. I slid an old photo across the table, me and him at the beach. He was 2. Red swim trunks. Tiny footprints in wet sand. He was terrified of the waves clinging to my neck, screaming, "Mommy, Mommy, you didn't know much about the world back then," I said quietly. "But you knew where safety was." He stared at the photo, said nothing. I stood. "You're right, I was too strong, and starting today, I'm saving that strength for myself." I walked out into the rain. Didn't cry. Just sat in the car, hands on the wheel, realizing I had lost everything. Husband, marriage, son. but in that same breath I understood I no longer needed anyone to tell me who I was. The final confrontation came weeks later. Linda stood there, arm around Daniel, triumphant smile plastered on her face, like she had already won. I pulled out the second will, the original one, signed 5 years earlier before the affair became permanent in his mind, the one that left the bulk to me and Daniel. Or the forensic accounting records Ruth helped compile, showing years of embezzled company funds funneled to shell accounts that ultimately benefited Linda. The room went dead silent. Linda's smile vanished. No one was smiling anymore. Daniel looked at me, really looked for the first time in years. His eyes filled. I didn't yell, I didn't gloat. I simply said, "From now on." I danced to my own music. I walked away, left the house, started over, stronger, free. That funeral podium moment broke me, but it also rebuilt me. If you've ever been betrayed, erased, made invisible, remember this: your strength doesn't disappear. It just waits for the moment you decide to use it on yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, hit like, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments. You're never truly alone. End with soft, uplifting music, fade out, screen text. Sometimes the biggest betrayal is the beginning of your freedom.